Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you might be in the world. Thank you so much for joining us for today's virtual meetup on how to amp up your rental visibility and bookings. So to quickly introduce myself, my name is Alexandra Mandel. I'm a business development manager at Guesty. I'm working mostly with our marketplace partners, two of which are joining us today. And for those of you who aren't yet familiar, Guesty is the leading short-term rental property management platform. And today, as I mentioned, we have two of our marketplace partners joining us and who are also prominent thought leaders in our space, the travel and short-term rental ecosystem. Today, please welcome Tom Williams, Client Success Manager at AirDNA, and Diamond Franson, Brand Manager at Intercoastal Net Designs. Thank you guys both for joining us today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you both. So to give those at home a rundown for today's virtual meetup of what we'll be going through, I'm going to start by sharing some Guesty insights with you all, and then I'll invite our panelists to share theirs on the topic today, which again is how to amp up your rental visibility and bookings. And hang tight towards the end because we're going to conclude the webinar with a panel discussion. And that's when we're going to take in those audience questions from you guys. So before we dive into the data, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce Guesty to those of you who might not yet be familiar with what we do. So at Guesty, we aim to provide short-term rental host and property management companies with the tools they need to operate more efficiently, bring in more bookings, and ultimately grow their businesses. And to do this, we have two distinct platforms. One is called Guesty for Host, and the other being Guesty for Pros. Guesty for Host is really meant for a more mom and pop property manager or somebody who might own their own properties and want to rent them out, maybe anywhere between 1 and 5 properties. And then Guesty for Pros is our kind of more professional tool for large property managers who might manage large scale apart hotels or urban buildings and are really a professional property management company. Either way, whichever one's the better fit for you, both platforms are powered by our 150-person R&D team. And that means that regardless of which platform, all of our users are provided with the most innovative and cutting edge solutions available on the market. So regardless of how many properties you manage or what your goals are, or even really whether you're getting started or already a professional host, within Guesty, we have the solutions that are perfectly suited for you and your business needs. So let's jump in and start by taking a look at some of the data from our friends over at AirDNA who are about to take the stage. What we're seeing here and in general witnessing this year is a huge surge in supply this year with, as you guys have probably noticed, hundreds of thousands of new players coming in to join the short-term rental market. And while demand is forecasted to increase at the same rate as 2021, about 20%, supply is actually forecasted to increase 13x more than last year. So what that means is that the pressure on host and property management companies to compete and really stand out from this ever-growing crowd has never been greater. And despite that competition being fiercer than ever, according to Guesty data, less than 10% of PMCs and hosts are promoting themselves or have any sort of presence on social platform TikTok, which in 2021 surpassed over 1 billion users. You guys might have been like me in thinking that TikTok is primarily for those Gen Z youngings, but that's no longer the case. Millennials are actually making up almost 40% of TikTok users today. And as you may know, this is an incredibly lucrative market segment to target. There are over 150 million millennials and Gen Zers with 350 billion in spending power in the US alone. And 65% of them are saying that they're getting inspiration for their trips from the digital content that they're consuming on a daily basis. As well, most PMCs and hosts have a profile on either Facebook or Instagram, sometimes both. but very few of them are maintaining regular communication or posting regularly on those channels, let alone even fewer are buying ads on these platforms. What we know from working with PMCs really of all shapes and sizes is that beyond the social media, newsletters and email marketing in general have both been proven powerful and minimal cost but high ROI marketing channels, but that are still underutilized by property management companies. So by capitalizing on one or more of these opportunities that we just mentioned, ads on these platforms, TikTok, as well as your newsletter and email marketing, if you engage in any of these, you will already place yourself ahead of much of your competition. And to take this home, I want to share with you an example from a Guesty user and a property management company called Apart Ali, based in Casablanca. Apart Ali was founded in 2018 by their CEO, Ali El Hajawi, and quickly became the leading short-term rental property management company in Casablanca by maintaining an Instagram account that has already amassed more than 76,000 followers. And by continuously posting photos, reels, and stories highlighting their property services and clearly the stunning location that they have from this video, Apart Ali has been able to attract thousands of leads to its direct booking site, while also fostering long-term relationships with his guests in order to bring them back again. If you want to learn more about Apart Ali, you can check out the latest case study on them on the Guesty website. And in case you're worried that you have to be, a very professional host or even a fully fledged company to make a difference or make waves on social media, I'm here to share that that's really not the case. Another example is Michael Elefante, who 3 years ago invested in his first short-term rental and decided he wanted to share the journey on social media on Instagram and TikTok. If we fast forward to today, Michael is one of the biggest and most popular influencers in the hosting space, and he has over 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram. So if you need any more proof that people are hungry for relevant content on hosting, vacation rentals, the short-term rental space, look no further than Michael, who really identified and capitalized on this trend perhaps more than anyone else. And am I saying that you should drop everything today and become an influencer on TikTok or Instagram? Obviously not. But I do hope that these examples I shared with you made you see and realize the massive and undertapped opportunity to promote your business and amp up your visibility and bookings on social media. Now, before we jump into our speakers, we want to share a quick poll with you guys. And I'm super curious, based on what we've been speaking about, what your answer would be. You'll see now a poll on your screen. Oh, wow. Thanks, guys, for jumping in. So far, we're seeing quite a few attendees who aren't promoting themselves on any of these platforms. A little bit fewer who are promoting on just one. And 2 or more is just taking the lead. Very cool to see this happening live. Okay. Oh, still going. Those of you who haven't answered already, feel free. Okay, wow. So it looks like actually 44% of attendees here are already promoting on 2 or more platforms, but surprisingly, a full 34% are not promoting themselves on any of the platforms. Just one came in 3rd place with 22%. So thank you guys so much for sharing this with us. Hopefully today, the tips that you're going to hear from our speakers will help kind of choose which platforms, how to prioritize, and how to differentiate yourself from your competition. So now I'd like to turn it over to our first speaker, Tom Williams, Client Success Specialist at AirDNA. He's going to share with us the latest data on booking patterns, travel trends, and demonstrating what PMCs and hosts can expect from the remaining months of 2022. Take it away, Tom.
Cool. So thanks everyone for being here today, and thanks to the Guesty team for the invite. Very excited to be able to share the latest market trends with you guys. So as Alex mentioned, I'm a client success specialist and content creator here at AirDNA. Basically, I help our customers understand the short-term rental data that we provide and help them implement it into their businesses and their STR listings themselves. So I'm going to be discussing latest market trends from, as well as looking forward to the end of the year and beyond, and how to leverage this into your STR businesses going forward. Here's what we'll go over today. Some of you may already be familiar with AirDNA and what we do, but I'll just touch on who we are briefly. We'll look into the STR trends from the US and Europe for Q2 of this year, as well as looking towards the end of the year. And then finally, we'll look at how you can implement this into your STR business. So who are AirDNA and what do we do? The question we get asked quite often is, where do we get our data from? So we have three main sources. You can see here, predominantly we scrape it from Airbnb and VRBO directly. We then have data partnerships with property management companies and channel managers. And then finally, we gather information from individual hosts themselves. So we've been tracking the space since 2014, make us the most reliable source for short-term rental data. We then take that data and create actionable insight for our clients, giving insight into number of active rentals, average daily rate, occupancy, revenue, seasonality, just to name a few, with the idea of being able to create the most accurate tools to help our customers succeed in the vacation rental space. We like to think that without data, it's like trying to read a map without a compass. So that's kind of how we like our clients to use our data. So let's go back and look at the short-term rental trends in the US for Q2 of this year. So we've seen a return in travel. Here you can see how the pandemic has impacted different sectors of the tourism industry. In March of 2020, you can see that travel all but stopped as the pandemic started. And since then, there's been a gradual return to those travel patterns. You can see that hotel trips and auto trips have kind of recovered. And if you look at the blue line here, which represents short-term rentals, you can see that they've already surpassed that by over 20%. The increase in travel can be illustrated here. So here we're looking at goods and services and what people are spending the money on. During the pandemic, we saw a pattern of, or a change in pattern, if you like, of people spending their money on goods rather than services. As they were at home, they couldn't travel, so they were spending on items rather than experiences, if you like. So here, the goods are represented by the orange and the blue represents services. And over time, you can see how that shifted as people have started to return towards those travel patterns coming into 2021 and 2022. And you can see how that's impacted revenue. So this is going back to 2018 in terms of total revenue generated in the US in the short-term rental market. So you can see in 2018, just under $31 billion was generated, and that's more than doubled looking at what we're forecasting for the end of this year. And if we look at 2023, again, you can see potentially less growth, but we're still looking at $67 billion in revenue for that year. So while we are seeing people travel from the US, people have been slower and go in the other direction. The rate of recovery is expected to be slow, though tourism economics forecast that international spending in the US will fully recover by 2024. But given that STR demand growth is much stronger than other forms of lodging, we expect that STR demand will have fully recovered to the 2019 levels by 2023. So whilst we are seeing more people travel and more bookings being made, we are still seeing a decline in occupancy. Now, this occupancy isn't dropping because there's a lack of demand. It's because there's such an increase in supply in the market, as Alex mentioned earlier. This can largely be attributed to investors and vacation rental management companies increasing their portfolios to try and catch up with that demand, or increase in demand, I should say, that we saw in 2021. That being said, occupancy is still outperforming what we saw in 2019. So here we can see the number of short-term rentals. Again, this goes back to 2018. And you can see, from there up to 2020, fairly consistent growth. 2020, we saw a lot of people taking their listings off the market for obvious reasons. 2021, we saw some return to the market, but not full recovery. Up until February of this year, we can see this big spike. Now, that can be down to pandemic recovery potentially, or it could be down to more attractive mortgage rates at the start of the year, making buying a short-term rental property more appealing. So which markets are recovering fastest? Whilst all markets are recovering to pre-pandemic levels, suburban markets are still seeing higher demand than their urban counterparts. Why is this? We've generally seen that suburban markets have seen more demand in terms of, or more bookings being made of 28 days or more. This can likely be attributed to more flexible work from home policies or people just trying to get out of the city in general. Overall, we are seeing a decrease in long stays across all markets, however, as more people are returning to work and travel is becoming more and more available, I suppose, without restrictions. So how has this affected ADR? Here we have it broken down by location type. So this is ADR growth, and you can see that large cities and urban markets are seeing the largest growth, which kind of makes sense based on how we were seeing the largest growth in those more rural locations. 2021 was a marquee year for those rural locations, as we saw previously. People were trying to escape the city and were booking more longer stays. So it makes sense that now we're seeing smaller growth in those markets in terms of ADR compared to what we see at the top here in those larger cities. And onto Europe. So unlike the US, we're still seeing an occupancy higher than both 2019 and 2021 in Europe, which is largely down to a lower supply of STRs. We often find that European markets generally are a step behind the US in market trends. So we're likely to see an influx of STRs coming into the market over the coming months, in which we expect the occupancy to normalize to those pre-pandemic levels. And here you can see already month on month, there's been an increase in the number of STRs coming into Europe. You can see from April 22 into May, there's been a sharp increase, and we expect this to continue going through the summer. And looking forward to the end of the year and further on. So Alex shared this earlier, and we are seeing supply outpace demand in the US. You can also see how that has affected ADR growth. So big jumps from 2019 into 2020, and then we're seeing it drop from 2021 into 2022, and again dropping again in 2023. As we look to the end of the year and towards 2023 in the US, it's unlikely we'll see the highs of 2021 due to that inflated supply against demand. However, we are seeing promising performance in both the rest of 2022 and 23. They are pacing higher than what we saw in the 2019 occupancy figures. And this is how it shapes up in Europe in terms of booking demand in specific countries. You can see that Greece and Germany are pacing at over 25% of what they saw in 2019, for example, and Hungary and the Czech Republic are way down against their previous performance. And here's how that looks in Europe on the whole. The market is generally following the usual trends of bookings decreasing as we head into the end of the year. This, coupled with more supply being introduced to the market, points towards that occupancy normalizing once again to those pre-pandemic figures going into 2023. So I know that was a lot of numbers. So now let's look at how we can actually implement that into to making it best practices for your STRs. So first of all, get granular with your pricing. This is pulled from our market miner tool. Our smart rates give daily pricing recommendations based on key factors in your market and your property specifically. It updates daily based on market change and seasonal changes, which gives you a bit of a window into how your competitors price going forward in your market. We suggest that you take into account even the smallest recommended change. Even the slightest difference may not seem like much, but it will make you more appealing to guests. Some hosts don't see the value in such small changes, but even lowering your prices by $1 or $2 per day, based on what you're seeing here, could improve your occupancy. This tool is updated daily, so it's good to get into the habit of checking your calendar against what you see in the market. Secondly, stay ahead of the curve. Again, from a market monitor tool, this graph shows actual daily bookings for the next 6 months, showing you what's booked, what's available, the prices for both. And you can also see the occupancy rate. It helps you ask the right questions about your listing. Your pricing strategy. Are you priced too high? Is your calendar open to accept future bookings, especially for in-demand dates like events or holidays? If we look here, for example, this blue line represents the median booked rate, and you can see there's a big spike around the start of November, obviously for the Thanksgiving weekend. So you can see that people are putting their prices up. Are you doing the same? And finally, benchmarking competition. Identify realistic competitors. This is something that some of you may do manually, which can be time consuming. But with the comp set page in MarketMinder, you can see comparable properties based off how close they are to your listing, how many bedrooms they have, what if they have similar amenities. So you can define realistic market competitors. You can see how they're performing, and are you matching this? If not, why? Is it something to do with how far away you are from one another? If it's a beach location, is your property too far from the beach? Do you need a hot tub, for example? Analyzing the differences in these properties will give you the answers to why potentially you're making less a month compared to your competitor. So going back to what I said earlier, without data, you're trying to navigate without a compass. You could have the best SDR in the world, but if you don't implement actionable data or insight to drive your pricing strategy and understand your market trends, you're leaving money on the table. And that's where our data solutions can help you save your time and grow your business further. If any of the features of our MarketMinder tool have interested you, you can click the follow the QR code here and research your market, where we're currently offering 40% discount on our annual subscriptions. Also, if you liked any of the trends that I walked you through today, we publish monthly reviews on our blog, which can also be accessed through our website, as well as following us on social media, where we can also share data nuggets that may be of interest to you. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Tom. Very cool to see how the MarketMinder product allows our property managers to kind of keep up with the well-known practice in the hotel space of following your comp sets and your competition, and seeing how you're bringing that as our industry professionalizes, bringing that into our space as well. Very cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those insights and trends with us. Very useful. Now I'm really pleased to invite Diamond Franson, brand manager at Intercoastal Designs, to provide with us an overview of marketing tactics that hosts and PMCs can use, really to focus on differentiating yourself from the competition.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's great to be here today. So if you're not familiar with Intercoastal Net Designs, or IC&D for short, we are custom conversion driven VR. We build custom driven VR websites. We are celebrating 23 years in the industry, still independently owned and operated. So we really pride ourselves on that. We also provide powerful digital marketing services, and our marketing team is both a Google PPC partner and a Meta business partner. So a lot of the things, those connections with those two companies help us also help our customers. So what we're going to be working on today is reviewing the top social media platforms that are important to PMCs and their audiences, sharing which platforms PMCs should use and why, tips and tricks to leverage that social media strategy, best practices for 5-star reviews, and ways to measure your ROI. The importance of social media, you touched earlier about some people may have accounts, but they've abandoned them or they're not utilizing them to their fullest potential. But it's important to use those social media platforms. It builds trust with your users. Sending trust signals back and forth between your social media accounts and Google is very important, and having that online presence. So some people say, which platform should I use? I always suggest 3, which I'll get into in 1 second. So the latest data that we had about the audiences and who's using these social media platforms is right here on the screen. Feel free to take a snapshot. We do talk about this, in some of our articles and social media posts. So as this data becomes available, we do publish that as well. So, where should you spend your time if you're just starting out? If you want to get back to those abandoned platforms that you've made have, My top three is this. The vacation rental trifecta. Facebook is great for reaching new and past guests. Instagram is great for capturing the spirit of your location and enticing users to visit your destination. Pinterest for getting in front of that prime booking audience. People ask me, Diamond, what is your favorite one? And I kind of like shock people when I say that it's Pinterest. Um, in a perfect world, having a strong presence on all these platforms would be ideal, but we just know that's not realistic. Everyone is busy. They have lots of boxes to check during their day. So if you are looking to adopt a new platform or get back onto an abandoned platform, I always suggest Pinterest is your way to go because it your audience is there. The audience that you're looking to market to is there. So let's just jump into Facebook really fast. The benefits, they have affordable advertising, you have a massive reach, you can target travelers, it builds that online trust we talk about, and they have free marketing tools. People ask me about budgets, and we always say $10 a day or $300 a month, depending on your budget is ideal, and it will give you the reach that you're looking for with a budget of that size. So this tool also has some free marketing tools. You can schedule on the platform and provide insights to your content, the audience, and your competitors. So here are my tips and tricks. 3 to 5 times a week. Yes, I know that's a big ask, but if you can do it using a scheduling platform, that is ideal. Like Meta Business Suite makes it easy to plan out your posts in advance. So if you can't physically be posting 3 to 5 times a week, set some time aside in your calendar to schedule those posts. And that is a good time saver there. Follow the 80-20 rule, 80% fun lifestyle posts about your location, your properties, and 20% promotional posts. Trying to get people actively involved. If you have a last minute cancellation, this is a great platform to post up that information. Use emojis for fun. They're great for catching attention and highlighting important info. And then using bold text generator too for important information like property names. We talk a lot about hashtags. So try to use on Facebook 5 to 6 hashtags per post. Always people have their own mix of hashtags that they like to use, but we suggest using a mix of low volume hashtags to increase your post reach. And by low volume, I mean under 200K. My pro tip here is, again, those hashtags. Create branded hashtags for your company. ICND, we use hashtag ICND, hashtag team ICND, and hashtag ICND launch whenever we launch a new website for a client. And then also share to local groups, share your content to your local groups. Those are always important, to share updated information. If your area has a vacation rental group that people post to or ask questions to, share your important content there as well. That's a pro tip there. Moving into Instagram, the benefits, it's a visual platform. While Instagram caters to a younger demographic, these users will eventually turn into your target renters, so keep presence on that platform. It's part of Meta, so it's easy to cross-post between Instagram and Facebook. So going back to the Meta Business Partner online scheduling tool, you can use that tool to post to both Insta and Facebook, again, a time saver. We've heard lots of stories and examples where, customers were just searching through hashtags and or searching by hashtag, and they found a location that they wanted to visit. And since Insta is a visual platform, you want to really capture that spirit of your location with great photos, clear, crisp photos so people can envision themselves in your location. Okay. Features about Instagram. Facebook does have some similar features like live stories and placement for videos, but Insta has a few more available. And remember, Instagram is a mobile-first platform. So post to your story regularly from your phone to stay in front of your users. You can even then use that tool, the Meta Business tool, to cross post to your Facebook story. If you have access to create or use video content, post them as a reel. We are seeing such great engagement over in Reels. Reels allow brands a broader reach that goes well beyond a brand's follower base. While people only see posts and stories from the accounts that they follow, Reels show content from all Instagram based upon what people are most interested in. And a brand new feature that just came out last week that we've been talking about is Reel templates. So you can go in, find a reel that you like, save that template, and then replicate it yourself. So you don't have to build from the ground up. You can definitely copy that template, and it is a time saver. My tips and tricks here for Instagram is follow hashtags that are relevant to your company and to have eyes on what your competitors are posting. Share content back and forth to Facebook using that Meta business platform. Post to your story regularly to stay in front of users. If you're sharing property info, share the link to the property. And people say to me, "Well, Diamond, I can't have a link." Like in a post, but you can in a story. So you can put a link sticker in there and share your link there. And most importantly, engage with your followers. Follow them back, like their posts. This lets them know that you're listening and looking. And we've been seeing an uptick in engagement by linking to user stories. So I just want to mention here that this Instagram space of reels and posts and stories is always changing. I think we get an update once a week by something they're changing. And we're seeing that Instagram is changing their model and making updates and new tools available based on what we're seeing over in TikTok. So, people are using that TikTok. The audience has surpassed in the last year more than we ever thought it would. But we know that these kind of bread and butter platforms like Facebook and Instagram are, changing their platforms to mimic what we're seeing in TikTok. So if you don't have the bandwidth to be across all platforms, these social platforms are listening to the audiences and how they're using them, and they're mimicking some of those tools and features. Something I really, really like on Instagram, and this is my hot take for Instagram, is they have a new guides feature. So I feel like this one has been made for the vacation rental industry. It's a free feature that is great for showcasing properties, partnerships with local businesses, sharing things about the location, where you like to eat, drink, go to a museum. Guides is visual blogs, so don't be afraid to get creative with guides. All right. And I did speak about the Meta platform, the business platform. So Meta makes it easy to run ads across both Facebook and Instagram. So if you're looking to get back onto those abandoned platforms and run ads, this is ideal for you. You can choose to run ads on both platforms or select the placements you want in your ad. Either they can show in feeds, stories, reels. There's many different campaign objectives, from traffic, brand awareness, conversions, and many different ad formats: single image, carousel, instant experiences, which is a new option, which we're seeing great return on. Meta Ads Manager is the place for you to build out your campaigns and track your performance. So speaking about Meta Ads and targeting, I just want to mention the special ad category of housing. Many times for our industry, ads will get rejected because they aren't placed into the specific category. So if you're starting to create ads, seek out the special ad category of housing. In this category, targeting is limited. You can't edit the age, gender, and interest. But from my experience, since the special ad category makes your audience broader, it's possible you see a dip in performance, but you can avoid this by watching your wording, how you use the words house, homes, rentals. And if your ad is rejected, 90% of the time, it can be approved with a simple appeal. So keep an eye on your audience definition and make sure your audience isn't too narrow or too broad. A tip here I have with this is, use the interest to narrow down and drill down on your audience. And then one more thing here about layering interests. Layering interests can narrow down your audience and help you find the prime target audience. There are also options to target frequent travelers and travelers who just got back from vacation. So keep in mind, interests are limited with running ads in these special categories, but they can definitely get the right message to the right person. And then when you're making these ads, make sure your audience isn't too narrow or too defined. So when you're setting up, a great tool inside the business managers, you'll see this slide bar where it tells you if you're too broad, too specific, but you want to be right there in the middle of the green category. Okay, talking about Pinterest. Pinterest for me is the prime vacation booking demographic. Of 35 to 45 year old woman. That is who Pinterest is being used by the most. We have seen an uptick in men using Pinterest last year during the pandemic when everybody was home sharing and dreaming together about vacation. But the prime demographic using Pinterest is your prime audience member you want to speak to. What I like about this, there's no timeline. Old pins just get just as much love as new pins. There's no feed where an old pin will get dropped to the bottom and replaced by a new pin. Every pin kind of has will come up in search. And something I always think about and talk to clients about is Pinterest really is used like a search engine. It's a visual search engine where you can type in a subject and find all these visual representations about what you searched for. And quick stat about this is over 2 billion travel searches, last year alone. So Pinterest is where users are going to get travel inspiration, research what to do, what to bring, and it's creating excitement and some fever up until the time of their trip, so they can share their plans and their pins with their whole family if they're building these big family trips together. Something new or newer, I'll say, with Pinterest is the travel personas. There's 8 new travel personas. They're up here on the screen, so feel free to Snapchat that or ask me for more information about these individual travel personas and how you can drill down on them more. So not only did Pinterest identify the people and the travelers, the types of travelers, but they're literally letting you target them with your ads on Pinterest. New feature that was just released was idea pins and idea pin ads. I just want to note that much of the location specific targeting functions for idea pins and idea pin ads is just for the US at the moment. But speaking with our Pinterest partner, they are building out that location specific targeting for Europe, in the next, 6 months to a year. So they know that needs to be done, but they're testing that right now with the US markets. My Pinterest tips and tricks is keep the content fresh and fun with blog posts, linking to your blog posts, videos, topics your potential guests may be interested from any source. Make every pin actionable by adding a URL. Maybe you're linking back to a blog or driving them to your website to book. And create pins once a week. Give your boards clear and descriptive titles, oceanfront property, things to do, so they stand out and people keep an eye on your profile. So how do we measure all this ROI? We're working with ads on social media platforms. We found that social media is really used as a touch point in the booking process. The chances of seeing your pin or your post and then immediately booking is, less than 1%, but it's part of the process. When scrolling through your feeds, users are in what we call the dreaming mode versus the booking mode. So they're doing that research, they're sharing things with their family, they're collecting ideas. So that is part of that dreaming phase and part of the booking process. And then most social media users are on mobile, while most bookings are happening on desktop. I want to mention here that we have seen an uptick in people booking on mobile because people are now out of their homes. They're traveling again, they're commuting, they're going visiting with their friends. So as everybody was in their homes during the pandemic times, we saw people looking on mobile, but then booking on desktop. We're seeing a shift in this because people are now out and about in their communities and they're on their phones more than ever before. So if they are in that dreaming phase and move to the booking phase, they can easily book on your website if you have a mobile friendly website. So keep that in mind with your website building as well. The path to bookings is never linear. On this chart here, you can see 8 different examples of a customer journey, and the purple on here represents a touch point of where they use social media as part of their booking journey. So, somebody may start with an organic search, go directly to your site like 10 times in example number 3, and then use social media. So it is a big part of that journey. Let's look at the results here. If you're inside your Google Analytics, or if you're trying to use your new GA4 platform, you can easily navigate to the Conversions tab, multi-channel funnels, assisted conversions, and see a breakdown of where your booking came from. And here you can see that social media played part in 8 different bookings. So definitely the purple is where you represent that social media portion of the customer journey. Some notes about Google Analytics. And I just want to take a side note for a second and encourage people, if you haven't started your upgrade to Google Analytics 4, now is the time. We are always dependent and we are great users of Google Analytics, but with the new GA4 announcement, you want to use this next year to learn how to build and use that platform. So just a side note from the marketing and side of me, tracking your ROI, especially from social media, it can be challenging, especially if you don't know what to look for. So when using social media, you're most likely always going to see more assisted conversions over direct conversions. And a way to look at this even deeper is add those UTM codes at the end of your URLs when you're building out your ad campaigns. You can accurately track where the traffic is coming from and what specific ad that came from. So a little about email marketing. Email marketing tips to stand out. The average person receives 121 business emails per day. Every email you send is just one in a huge pile. So some tips to stand out here. Use striking color, bold text, benefit-oriented, high contrast, and write your copy in an active voice. Number 2, create less friction when making inquiries or purchases. Use a email, with a subject and request to fill out an inquiry. So have a preset, done. So if people click to want to know more, have that preset email in place so it's getting to the right person, not just a generic inbox, and maybe the subject line is already created in there. Entice people to share your brand with fellow colleagues. Give an incentive to promote your company, and that incentive could just easily be, access to exclusive content that you're creating. Number 4, share local content. If you're running out of ideas to include on your email list, share local content about an event or something happening in your area. And then number 5, use a branded from address instead of the no reply at company.com kind of generic. Send an email from yourself. And number 6 is snackable. Make emails easy to scan. So like I said, everybody receives over 120 business emails per day. I think some of us on this call may receive more, but make sure those emails are scannable and easy to read using easy to read sentences, bullet points, numbered lists, short paragraphs, headings, and subheaders. Questions about 5-star reviews and where to put your reviews and how to get them. Reviews everywhere. Have them at the top of your PDP page, have them on the bottom of the property. It gives your better sense of trust to your visitors that are visiting the site. Show up how often people have visited the site and love your properties. And again, those positive reviews give you those trust signals, like I mentioned before. So it not only gives trust in the guest and Google, back and forth between social media and your Google My Business. So it's everyone sharing those trust factors back and forth. All right, Google My Business reviews, go get them. So you want to have, when you're responding to your reviews, you want to make sure you're using possible keywords or relevance to the person's comment. You just don't want to have a generic response. Try to really show that you're responding in a genuine way. We know we can't remove Google reviews, but responding to negative reviews in a positive way is taking control of your public-facing content. While the internet can sometimes feel like a one-way conversation, responding to reviews gives your business a voice. I just mentioned negative reviews. Responding to the review in a helpful and sincere way is the next step forward to fixing the thing that may be wrong, or to help your customer, even be a return customer in the future. If you come, into the office on a Monday morning and you see you have 100 Google My Business reviews and you're like, how am I supposed to respond to all these, Diamond? My quick tip here is, if you're short on time, prioritize responding to reviews that have the Google Local Guide orange star and logo next to their name. There's an example of that on the bottom of the screen. But those have a little more weight with that orange star. So prioritize your time to do those first. All right. We have here at ICMD a really in-depth 59 points, not 60, digital marketing website checklist. If you want to kind of run through the checklist and see where you stand, you can use that URL there, screenshot it, or we can put it in the chat for you, and you can download that for free for you to use. So Alexandra, thank you for having me today. If anybody on the call wants to get in contact with me to discuss these topics deeper or learn more, here's my contact information and our website. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Diamond. I think of myself as a pretty regular user of these platforms and have learned so much, and I'm overwhelmed by all the new features and functionality that you shared today. So thank you so much. That was such a practical how-to guide. So to start us off, I have a question for both of you. Maybe something that a lot of our attendees today are thinking about, but we know that 2022 has been a record year for travel and STRs, yet now with the looming recession and low season on the horizon, how do both of you see the future of the industry in the short and long term? What tips do you have to offer hosts and property managers to minimize the impact of any kind of downturn on their business? Diamond, if you want to go ahead and start off.
Sure. My number one recommendation is always to diversify, recession or not, slow season or not, always be diversified. You don't always want to put all your eggs in one basket if you didn't build that basket. So make sure you have that website that is branded with you and your company voice on there, so you can accept direct bookings, as well as if you're using a channel manager or online travel agent. So make sure, and you're using those social media platforms. So make sure you are diversified across the board. You never want to have, all your properties listed on one place and then a rule changes or something happens and then you could see a big downturn there. So recession or not, low season, high season, always be diversified.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've learned about the STR industry over the last few years is sort of how resilient it is, going through the pandemic and coming out the other side. And though we may be seeing sort of low in demand currently, based on what we've seen historically, we're going to come out the other side, and using kind of, narrowing your market and understanding your market and understanding your listing and understanding your competitors and being realistic with your goals, I think is really important. So understand what's achievable for you and your listing and really try and implement that to your best ability. And, it's things are going to be slightly more challenging going forward compared to what we saw last year. But now it's time for you to really dedicate more time to your STR and dedicate more time to your pricing strategy and really sort of guide it through a potentially slower patch.
Great. Thank you both so much for that. We got quite a few audience questions, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into those with the time that we have left. The first one is for Tom. It came, and the question is, has customer demand changed? Which areas in the USA have the highest occupancy over the past year? Where do you think are the next hot areas for STRs?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, last year and sort of back end of 2020, the most in-demand areas we saw your more rural locations. People were really seeing those as hot investment areas because generally people wanted to get out of cities, get away from people. So they were looking at those areas specifically. Now with travel returning and things kind of going back to normal, more and more people are sort of coming back into looking at inner cities and larger cities as the next possible destination to invest in short-term rental. And we are seeing that kind of backed up by the data. I did mention that, urban areas are are still lagging behind in terms of occupancy and demand compared to their suburban counterparts, but they are still growing. They are coming back, and we expect that to continue going into 2023 and beyond. We're kind of expecting more of a return to consistent growth that we were experiencing up to 2019, and 2021 you can kind of consider an anomalous year based on the pandemic easing, travel coming back, and STLs becoming so popular.
Perfect, thank you. So urban areas it sounds like. Thanks so much, Tom. Diamond, the next one is for you. Coming from our audience, do you use Airbnb and VRBO links in your social media ads or direct links to property websites?
We encourage direct property links in social media. You can, if you don't want a big long URL, you can use a shortener tool like Bitly. We have even been using custom domains using Bitly as well. So we suggest using your direct link. That way they're getting onto your website and they can explore more. If you're, with using maybe Airbnb or VRBO, if you go there and you're not satisfied with that property, they may send the guest or the visitor to another property or search. But so you want them to direct to your site so you can see more about your company and other properties you offer in your portfolio if they're not satisfied with that first property that you featured.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nyman. Tom, the next one for you. What advice do you have for PMCs thinking through their pricing strategy today? How should they think about comparing themselves to the competition and market dynamics like big events, holidays, and seasonality?
Yeah. I guess it kind of links to what I was discussing earlier, is just sort of know what's coming and really understand who your competitors are. I know with property management companies that they can often be pressure from your clients to ensure that you're getting the same sort of revenues they expect, but I think it's also about managing expectations for them as well. So 2021, as I said, was kind of anomalous. ADR was massive, bookings were huge, but coming into the back end of this year and 2023, we are going to see that slope off and explain that it's not necessarily what they're doing. It's kind of a market trend and it's to be expected. And use that foresight, see what's coming, see when those big bookings are coming in, and really optimize the pricing strategy around those big events and ensure that the highest rates can be applied to the most in-demand times of year.
Perfect, thank you. Diamond, this one is coming in. It's an interesting question. She's asking, is text messaging also a form of promotion? Any type of stats or info that you might have on the effectiveness of using text as a channel?
Yeah, so we've seen some hosts use text messaging to send out important information about the area. If if a bridge is shut down or there's a weather pattern coming into the area, because we know everybody has their phones or their smart watches, so it's a great way to get right in front. So you can utilize text in those ways to get out urgent messages. We've also seen text messaging used to alert guests if they can add a day to the beginning of their vacation or add a day to the end of their vacation. So if they want to come earlier or stay longer, if the property is available, is an open week on either end, we've seen hosts use text messaging just to alert them, like, oh, you have an option, there's no one staying there the week before, maybe come a day or two earlier. So there are different tools out there to utilize text messaging. And I just be always cautious when selecting a tool. Make sure if you're going to start using SMS messaging for promotions or to communicate with guests, use a tool where it's mobile as well. We've seen where some of these platforms people can text in, but you have to answer on desktop. So make sure you select a tool that's right for you. If there's no one monitoring their desktop, say a maintenance man or somebody that's around the property or around the resort, they can answer you on mobile as well.
Thanks, Diamond. Sounds like a great way to catch a guest while they're actually in stay. And maybe do an upsell or of some sort.
Yeah, book now. Some people, we've seen some clients, send a text before the last day, as if you've enjoyed your trip, rebook now with a special discount.
Oh, wow.
So get that instant rebooking before the guest even leaves the area. So it is coming up. And I always just say, if you're going to start embracing SMS messaging, make sure the voice is really genuine and on part with your brand voice. You don't want it to ever come over spammy, because we were always, as a whole, we're always cautious about those odd text messages that we get. So make sure that the voice is yours and it's a very genuine message.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Diamond. Tom, the next one is for you, a little bit more of a technical question.
Mhm.
On the slide that you had benchmarking your competitors' data, the question is the revenue provided by AirDNA an estimate, or is it an actual revenue provided by an OTA?
Good question. Yeah, it's a calculation made by us. So the way we work that out, when we're looking at a calendar, we can determine the difference between a booking and a blocked day by the host, for example, or an available day, obviously. And we then take the booked rates, and then multiply it by the length of stay. So then it's just a case of doing that for the month, and then adding it on to the last 12 months with kind of like a rolling 12-month block.
Okay, great. Super informative. Thank you. This question comes from the audience for both of you, so feel free. Diamond, we'll start with you. The question is, does your visibility go down when you're booked for 28 plus day stays?
Does your visibility as far as the property showing up in the search?
I think that's what they mean. It actually says, does your visibility go down when you are booked for 28 plus stays? I'm assuming this means 28 plus day stays.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that your visibility goes down. And again, that would depend on the booking engine that you're using, but I don't think so. I think if someone's searching for oceanfront home or ski in, ski out home, and their search matches what you have to offer, your visibility won't go down, but it may give a guest, pause to book because it doesn't fit their timeline. If they're choosing to come in the middle of December and that property has been booked for 28 days, it'll show up, but they're just not going to have the opportunity to book it. So they may have to adjust their visit time.
Thank you. Tom, anything on your side?
Yeah, kind of similar to what Diamond was saying there. It wouldn't necessarily lower your visibility, but because people can sort of look for specific longer stays and base around sort of filters. But it could, like she says, it does sort of narrow your window, and it is going to sort of force the guest's hand to try and book a lot further in advance than maybe they have the time to do so. So that would be the only concern, I guess, in terms of like how far in advance the guest would have to be looking to try and get that stay.
Another option I would also suggest with that one is, if a certain timeline is not available and it comes up as property not available, have suggestions built in underneath of that property detail page. So if the property is not available for when the guest wants to be there, have suggested properties that maybe match that same exact search, whether it's 5, 6 bedrooms, the location of the property. Have those suggestions come up so you could still accommodate the guests for the time they want to come, instead of forcing their vacation time period out or before when they really wanted to come.
Great. Thank you both. Tom, this question came from for you. For AirDNA, have you noticed that guests are booking closer to their travel dates? Have you noticed any change in the lead time in bookings? Is the question?
I guess, but not like post-COVID, we were seeing that people were booking a lot less, a lot closer, and that's kind of continued. But that again kind of goes back to what we saw pre-pandemic. I guess with the pandemic, people kind of were booking further in advance, kind of in hope that it was going to end, and that they could, plan their holidays around that. But so as we came out the back end, we saw that booking lead time sort of decrease and return to what we saw sort of 2019 and before that. So, and it's also it's very market dependent as well. Like for urban stays, we generally see a very low booking lead time because there's a lot more supply. And for more rural locations, generally people would book further in advance because there's usually less supply, if you like. So yes and no, I suppose, is the answer to that one.
Great. Thank you so much. It's so tough to say on some of these things as behavior has changed so much over the last few years, right?
Yeah.
Can imagine. Diamond, this next one is for you. It's a bit of a long one, so hang with me. What are your thoughts on trademark strategy for hosts who are just getting started, between 1 and 3 properties? As you increase your visibility outside of, say, the Airbnb platform and start doing paid advertisements, do you encourage your clients to formally protect their brand, their property name with a trademark filing? Just curious what considerations should be made on when to pull the trigger on this.
It's a lot of question. Definitely a lot of question.
And some of it's legal, so feel free to take what you can.
Yeah. Overall, I say you always want to protect your brand, so your property company's name. As far as names of homes, I really can't speak to that. But overall, it kind of goes along with your brand guidelines, your brand voice. You want to just protect your brand. So if you're 1 or 2 starting out, that may not be the right time to do that, but you'll kind of feel when it's the right time. If you're ramping up and scaling up on your properties and you're being discovered more online and you're getting lots of inquiries, you'll feel when it's time to seek out like a trademark for your brand name.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We are well out of time, actually a little bit over time. So thank you both so much. It has been an incredible discussion. Thank you everyone at home who's joined us today. And of course, thank you to our panelists. We look forward to seeing everyone at the many upcoming virtual events we have planned for the short-term rental industry, all of which are posted on our events page at guesty.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out to meetup@guesty.com with any other questions you may have, and have a great rest of your day.